In a world where information seems to travel at the speed of light and traffic at a snail's pace, where the agenda of those at the helm doesn't always reflect the pressures on the streets, where the rubber hits the road, where there's queue of issues needing to be interrogated in the name of speaking truth to power.
Welcome to a place at the table,
where we set the agenda,
table the issues that matter to you,
and invite you to take a seat at the table.
Never let it be said that we are victims of circumstance. Welcome to a place at the table where we set the agenda. My advocacy today is on celebrating second chances. Remember Jumoke, the bread hawker turned model?
Interesting. Yes, I remember her. We are not victims of circumstances. Neither do we just go with the flow. It's high time we stop, reflect on respect, consent, and integrity in the digital age.
Sticking with your theme of integrity and following up from Funke's history lesson last week, I will be giving a history lesson to the Tory leader. Welcome to the table, Yabo.
Good to be here, Yinka. Let's add analysis to the mood of reflection. I'm set to unpack the local government autonomy. What are your thoughts, Bright?
Yabo, the topic comes with a lot of baggage. You don't think since we started unpacking it. I'm saying the power to redefine influence lies with you and me.
As you can see, you're in for some rich discussions today, from reflections to analysis, from unpacking to building up. You sit tight. We'll be right back. Rethinking failure, Jumoke's comeback story. Ricky Reid spent his childhood in poverty in Jamaica. He moved to England in 1990, got involved with a gang attempting armed robbery, and was sentenced to prison. In a 2017 TEDx Bristol talk titled The Power of Second Chances, he said going to prison was the best thing that happened to him. CCS Pute, a former US Marine, shared a TEDx book rating how her life shaped up after being in prison. I love her idea that a mindset is a prison just as a correctional facility. It's titled, Everybody Gets a Second Chance. Now the third person, Rick Rodriguez, TEDx Brentwood College School, titled Rethink Failure, Why Everyone Deserves a Second Chance, resonated with me most. He talked about reframing failure. Now, this is about Jumoke, the bread hawker, and how she got a second chance in life after a terribly rough patch. She had photobombed a photo shoot by celebrity photographer T.Y. Below on a street in Lagos. The image catapulted her to fame and fortune. Eventually, she abandoned her helpers for a predator manager who ruined her opportunities, closed the open doors before her, and returned her to poverty. We need to know who the destroyer is actually. Why is his identity missing from the narrative? But I digress. It's the end of the year. Should you have failed this year, I come to encourage and congratulate you. Failure is attending the school of life without paying tuition. Lessons learned at this school are impossible to forget. Why? Because it is an opportunity to embrace humility and do better. Failure is often unpleasant and unwanted, yet it is the path to living authentically. The truth is, if you've never failed miserably at something, you may not have discovered your rhythm to life. You must conquer the fear of failure and the shame it brings. In the words of Eric Roth, in the curious case of Benjamin Button, I hope you live a life that you're proud of. If you find that you're not, I hope you find the courage to start all over again. I salute the women who supported Jumoke to rethink her failure. I've taken a front row seat to watch Jumoke bounce back because I know her failure has finally positioned her for success.
There's something I posted recently. I don't know if you guys know the Nigerian Greek basketballer called Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Okay.
The
Greek god. Call him the Greek. No, what is the Greek god? The Greek.
Giannis is
Some they call him in the NBA. I can't remember. Anyways.
He's a fine man, by the way. Unrelated, but we need to point out that this is
a what?
a very fine man. Go ahead.
The fine Nigerian man. Mm-hmm. Put Nigeria behind it. Mm-hmm. That's scary.
Let's do like a fine Nigerian
Yoruba demon. Oh no, the day is silent.
Fine Yoruba demon.
Anyways, So last season, I think 2 seasons ago, I'm a big basketball fan, by the way. So I think at the end of the season before that season, he won the championship. Crazy. And then before that, I think for 64 years, not being precise, his team has never won the championship. So he was the first person that actually brought the championship to his team. And the next year, I think they probably left before the playoff or during the playoff. And during the press interview, they asked him, some guy asked him and said, do you consider this season a failure? Like, do you think your team failed? And he's like, what is failure? Like, what do you consider as failure? You have a job, right? Yes. Do you consider yourself a failure every year you're not promoted? Right? Just because you're not promoted this year, does that mean that you're a failure? Do you think you failed? There's no failure. There's just a process, a learning process. Would you say Michael Jordan played 16 years, won 6 championships, the other years was failure? No, it's not. It's just a process that leads you to that. Right. There's something that I've always done. I think that for me, that is the most important part of my life. And when I learned that early stage of my life, I was able to do a lot of things. Is the fact that I go into things with the intention to fail. Mm-hmm. It's like the worst case scenario. One of the things that stop people from doing what they're supposed to or what they want to do is the fear of failure. That's the fact that the embarrassment, this one, that one. I'm like, see, I'm already ready for the embarrassment. I know I might fail. Let's just go and fail. Let's all of us go. Let's go and fail. And at the end of the day, you get to now realize that fear is false evidence appearing real. It looks real. That's literally what fear means, right? If you look at the FEAAR, that's literally what it means. It looks like there's this shadow of like this huge thing and this ideology that you would like if this goes south, you lose your career, you lose this, you lose that, and then that stops you from doing it. But when you keep going and you keep looking at that thing, and you keep going towards it, when you get there, you discover that it's just smoke. On the other side of it, it's exactly where you need to be.
The land is green.
The land is green.
After failing, as far as you're failing forward, 2 things resonated with me. Going to prison was the best thing that happened to him.
Yeah.
It's important how we frame situations in our life. Life is going to happen to us, irrespective of who we are or where we are at, and it can happen to anybody at any time. It's okay to fail, and it's only a failure when you don't learn from it.
Yeah.
And the best part of failure is you can always fail forward because you are at the bottom already. The only other way is up.
It's to rise.
It's up. I consider failure learning experience and what not to do in the future. I don't process failure at all. Like I don't see anything as a failed situation because I always take my learning point from it and I try to move forward. We just keep moving irrespective.
Fantastic advocacy.
Thank you.
There's a quote that I took out of your advocacy, which I will go and engrave. It says, failure is attending the school of life without paying tuition.
That's right.
And I think it exemplifies what we all experience and also what Jumoke has experienced. And I'm happy that she's gone through this. That you fail in life is, like Bright said, part of the process. And the unfortunate thing is that if people understood this when they were growing up, they'll probably be able to appreciate more what happens after. Unfortunately, like you said, our parents, beat into us this thing of you must confess, and somehow some of us went into life thinking that you must always win.
Succeed. Yeah.
I had this experience with my daughter. She's a very self-driven woman, and there was a particular scholarship that she was gunning for. She put all her energy into the scholarship, and she knew she had done everything. In fact, by the time we were putting in the papers for this scholarship, even the committee itself that was considering the eligible candidate looked at it and said, she's got everything. She's really got everything. And when the results came out and the list came out, she wasn't there. But I remember I sat her down and I said, you know what? I know this sounds funny when I say it, probably because I'm a parent, but we will always be your first fan. We will always support you. But this is a fact of life that you must deal with. And that you must know that there will come a time when you will also experience this, maybe at work, maybe in marriage, maybe in business. It is a fact of life. However, you must understand that if you fail today, what will come tomorrow will be bigger. And I said to her that, remember this day because you're going to laugh about it. Now, fast forward to 2 years later after that experience, 2 years later after that experience, and she was, the first, one of the first winners, and actually the face of the Rice Award. This scholarship is, how do I put it, is like 100 times better
Than the one she
than
lost.
the one she lost.
There you go.
And she wouldn't have got that one if she had gone for the other one.
Because probably already in that process. And
So she went, she told me about it. Oh, Dad, it's only 100 people all over the world. 50,000 people applied, and I got it.
Wow.
Blah, 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 blah. And I let her finish. And I said, do you remember when you lost that scholarship? And she started laughing. I said, that's exactly what happens to life. So remember that lesson. That because you're still going to fail forward, there are still going to be things that you don't get right. But always remember that when you fail, it's just a process. The next thing that comes might be better. So you just have to work hard at it and make sure that you don't use that as an event to stay down.
Well, I must tell you that I have experience of failing. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Once an idea comes into my brain, I have to start it. I just must try it. So I have a whole list of failed projects, a long list. But one thing I want to advise is that everybody should learn to laugh at themselves. If I always say to people that, you are free to call me ugly. It's your headache. After all, somebody married me. And that has solved the question that somebody finds me. Somebody finds me attractive.
That was good.
So somebody finds me attractive. So I try to turn a lot of things and just look at it from a positive aspect. So if I fail today, I know this is perhaps not the project that I ought to be pursuing. It's better that I fail now. So I'm not afraid of failing, and I don't think anybody should really.
What's your biggest failure in life?
Oh, well, what's my biggest failure? I guess I wanted to have a first class in University of Ife Law, but I fell ill, and I had to come back, and I insisted I wasn't going to take the exam at the receipt, which was going to be in September. So I came back, rushed and prayed and passed. So I ended up with a 2-1 that I didn't want. To me, that's the failure. That's my,
Your standard.
My standard. I have that high standard. But I think the greatest failure, if I'm going personal, is just that I haven't done as much as what I thought I would do. I wanted to be like, maybe not in public office, but like a judge. And I kept running away from being a justice because I knew that I couldn't take bribe if I got in there. And I knew that the salary wasn't going to be enough, the standard at which I wanted to live and with my daughter and the rest of it. So that still hurts me because my dad was a judge and I grew up just thinking that. But to make up for it, I went to attend the Lagos State mediation. So I still mediate and I've been able to find my way. Yes. So that's one of the things that I wanted to study journalism. My parents said it had to be law. But I ended up coming back to writing and to doing a little bit of journal. So I always find my way back to most of the things that I planned to do.
There you go. It takes courage to make a comeback. It also takes having special people in your corner. Here's to brave hearts and brilliant support networks for Jumoke.
Thank you for that, Funke. It's a joy when the right things are celebrated and spotlighted. It's a tragedy when the opposite is the case. A few weeks ago, the world witnessed a tragedy, not one of natural disaster, but of human disregard. Private videos of Baltasar Engonga, A senior civil servant in Equatorial Guinea surfaced online, exposing intimate moments involving him and multiple women. Over 150 videos spread across multiple social media, shared without thought, without permission, without humanity. This isn't just a scandal, it's a reckoning, a call to confront our collective apathy towards respect, consent, and digital ethics. When did we become a society that finds entertainment in someone else's pain? When did we start trading in human dignity for clicks, likes, and shares? These videos were more than content, they were violations. Violations of privacy, violations of trust, and humanity itself. Consent is not optional. It's the foundation of respect, which separates ethical behavior from exploitation. Sharing intimate content without permission, it's not just a digital misstep. It's an act of violence. It shatters lives, relationships, and trust in often irreversible ways. But the blame doesn't stop at the individuals who shared those videos. Social media platforms must step up. They've become breeding grounds for casual cruelty, allowing explicit content to spread without checks or consequences. It's time these companies take responsibility and use technology to detect and remove non-consensual material. Protect users with better privacy tools. Show the world that respect matters more than revenue. And let's talk about us, the viewers, the sharers, the ones who say, oh, it's just a video. Every time we watch, we enable the cycle of exploitation. Every time we share, we tell the world that dignity can be traded for a moment of intrigue. This isn't just about Baltasar, it's about everyone who has ever been violated in this way. It's about creating a society where respect, consent, and integrity aren't just ideals, but non-negotiable standards. We must do better for ourselves, for each other, and for the world we want to leave behind. Let's stand for respect. Let's fight for consent. Let's be the change, because every share is a choice, and every choice has power. Choose dignity, choose humanity, and most importantly, choose better.
Okay, so there's a fine line, or a thin line between the issue of consent, privacy, and the responsibility of platforms. All right, to also be able to protect that. So, if I put something out in public, all right, I post a private picture, a private moment video, or intimate moment movie on the internet, all right, because I decide to share it. At that point, it's me making a decision of what to do.
There is consent.
So there's consent there, and so you cannot. So you can't say that, or why are you sharing my content? I provided the content, so in this particular case, it was a case that this material was shared by who? So the first question I wrote, here is who leaked the video, or the videos. Because that is very critical here. What we got online was his house was raided, and then they found disc or whatever CDs, and then the next thing we knew was that these CDs were all over the place. So it's important to be able to identify and investigate who did that, because whoever did that, I'm pretty sure, will have violated some local laws. That's one. Second issue that I want to talk about is about the need to regulate social media. Because, you see, the problem you have with technology and innovation is that a lot of the time,
Abuse.
Regulation is always playing catch-up. Because by the time you try to, come up with some kind of laws or to regulate it, technology has moved again, and then the law is still chasing it one way or the other. But I think we've come to the point where now everybody, this used to be a very big debate issue. Should we regulate social media? But I think right now a lot of people realize the fact that, look, if we don't regulate social media will regulate us.
Like I was saying earlier on, that we have the Cyber Crimes Act, at least for Nigerians, and a lot of them just don't understand how serious some of the things they flippantly do are when it comes to the repercussions with the law. Cyber Crimes Act, Section 24, subsection A specifically says the sharing of pornography attracts, I think it's 7 million fine or 3 years in jail.
Interested.
You know, so you can, and most of these offenses in the Cyber Crimes Act, they are strict liability offenses. So you're not going to be asked, oh, did you have any motive behind doing this? Was it something, you know, there's no story about it. It's just you shared it, you are caught, and then you have the trial. So it's so much important that our law enforcement, I think the Nigerian police now has a cyber crimes unit, and they are also on a lot of the social media, so they are watching things, but they haven't gone up to the stage of actually stepping in to say, we are also just going to pick anybody and we're going to invite you. They're still waiting for complainants. And right now, we are probably not going to have anybody complaining because this thing happened outside. But the law is there to stop pornography from being in your face for children and the rest of it. So we need to just let people know that there is a law. And I agree with Yinka that social media has to be regulated. That has been my point from so many years. Yinka and I were at a forum once organized by Enough is Enough, and I was the only one who was speaking on the side of social media needs to be regulated several years ago, and I remember how much bullying and attack and I got, but like I said, that doesn't worry me. The regulation, the kind of regulation we need is actually for the authorities to be able to say to the platforms, take this down.
Yes.
When this happens, you must do this. That's it. Take the choice away from people and have somebody else have that choice. And until they do that, we're going to have people being violated.
Yes, I agree to what both of you have said, because it's also very important on other cases. So many other cases outside just pornography being shared. There's a lot of cyberbullying, a lot of things going on within the space. People actually committing suicide because of things like threat, where somebody gets something from someone and then threaten them or blackmail them, and then somebody end up killing himself because he couldn't stand the shame. So absolutely, I agree with you on that. But in this case of this man, let's deep dive into it. Someone that is a public servant that holds one of the most powerful office because he's the one that end up checking on everybody
financial
else.
crimes.
So we don't even want to know how those women agree to want to do those things. I don't want to go deep into that. But the first thing I thought of when this thing started coming out, now this is before I even heard of the videos. I just heard something happened. And for me, it was unbelievable because it didn't make sense for one person to sleep with 400 women that are all married.
Interesting.
That's one. They're not just married, they're married to the most powerful people within the country. That's true. So I'm like, this man has to be studied. This is not normal. This is abnormal. This is Solomon 2.0. Every single person that is in this digital space, you have to understand whether you're sharing the content, you're commenting on something, you're posting something, you need to understand the repercussion of that action before you take it. Before you record an intimate moment, understand that there are codes. There are behind a picture, behind a video, there are codes behind it. When you go to a website, you click on something, you see a picture, there are codes behind it. Those codes exist immediately that content is taken. Those codes can be hacked at any point in time. Do not put yourself in that situation. If you don't want fire to burn you, don't put your hand inside.
We had stories, or rather we heard stories of people whose sex tapes were leaked by third parties. Yes. But nowadays, there's a trend. It's the main actors who leak the tapes now. So it tells us about our evolution as a people. Having said that, you look at the participants, just as Bright said, they weren't forced to be in the videos. I have not watched it. I do not have anybody who could have sent it to me. I'm grateful for that because things stick in my, you know. So, but the participants were aware that they were being filmed. So what was going on in their heads? From what I've heard from people, they were even smiling at the camera. So, but what they didn't have, the consent they didn't give, was the consent
to share with the general public.
To share with the rest of the world.
How do we know that?
Well, I don't know. But I assume that no woman in her right senses, married woman, would want such a...
No woman in her right senses, married woman, would allow herself to be recorded.
Having said that, Let's talk about the ethical behavior you talked about versus content. It being an act of violence, even for the people who are watching, because it messes with your head.
Yes.
What's going on here? It destroys the moral fabric of the society, seeing that almost all of these people were married women. Then I agree with you that social media platforms must do something about it. I don't know how this man got away with it. For most social media platforms, once you post anything that is not right, they pull it down. How come they did not pull down 400 videos that are pornographic?
I think even X right now,
How come?
is a button that you can actually click.
So having said that, there is something about even us, a lot of us were excited about it. There's a deadening of our senses as a people. The share, as you said, enable the cycle of exploitation. I think is a high level of exploitation, which almost all of us have given tacit endorsement to.
Thank you for that, Funke. The building blocks of the society, nation, and even the world we want have always been in our hands.
Which is why we are learning from history so as not to repeat past mistakes or even whitewash them. History lessons for the Tory leader. Recently, a video of the new UK Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, calling the advocacy for reparation a scam, emerged on the internet. Now, that's not the first time she says controversial stuff. She once said that the UK's wealth isn't from white privilege or white supremacy. Pressed on the validity of the reparation claims given the UK's slavery history, she had this to say: there are many things the British Empire got wrong, and there are many amazing things they also did. And we need to be honest about that and stop pretending that it was all bad. The British Empire ended slavery, the Atlantic slave trade. We need to talk about that more. Now let's backtrack a bit. Transatlantic slave trade that lasted 4 centuries may have been started by the Portuguese, but it was the British that expanded and benefited the most from it. It was a horrific period in human history that involved the forced transportation of over 15 million Africans to the Americas. The conditions on slave ships were brutal. Many slaves died during the journey due to disease, malnutrition, and mistreatment. It is in recorded human history the greatest unpunished crime against humanity. If the victims and descendants of the Holocaust could receive billions of dollars in reparations, why shouldn't the descendants of slaves also receive reparations? Kemi's comment that we should applaud the British for ending the slave trade is akin to applauding a serial rapist for deciding to stop raping. Kemi's attempt at revisionist rhetoric cannot rewrite history and the sacrifice of many women who fought and died for her to have the right to be where she is and say what she's saying. I have watched and admired Kemi for years. From her run for parliament in 2010, when she leaned heavily on her Nigerian/Yoruba heritage, to her present-day renaissance, where due to the cold calculations of political expediency, she seems to be pandering to the extreme right of her party. May we not have to sell our souls in the pursuit of what is ephemeral.
Amen.
Gosh, that's deep.
I think
Amen.
all of this is what you said. Maybe we not have to sell our souls, because coming from public relation background, especially because I've done this with the political space before, I think this is just a strategy. That's what I think. I mean, we're all here to talking about this woman. That was the point of the strategy, to get people talking, right?
Clickbait.
If you want to, if I want to put out a new candidate, I'm not going to come and say, hey, he's nice. Nah, I would look for all of the points, all the trend points. I'll outline all the trend points. I'll identify my target audience. And my target audience are people who just, they don't have the ability to express how they really feel because of how the society construct is. I would use that as a strategy to help them express it, because I know that if I express their internal feeling, then I'm able to get them to buy it, because it's emotional balance. It's like you find that one thing that gets into somebody's emotion and you drive with it. I don't think she's a bad person. I think she's just someone that's just very ambitious, and she's doing whatever it takes to win. To win what. So for me, when I find things like this, I would not share it, because I know why you're doing what you're doing. I understand the game. I understand that if I start talking about it, I'm making you achieve your goals, right? So So I think, like you said,
so your point is basically ignore her.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Bright. But I'm going to assume that she's saying what she actually believes. But it's important to ask those questions. Is Kemi aware that more than 15 million Africans were involved in slavery, leading to human rights abuses, rape, torture, and even murder? You know, slavery did not just strip people of their freedom and dignity. It also stripped the entire continent of human capital and resources. And does she know that part of why Africa is underdeveloped is due to slavery? Because a huge part of our resources, human resources, even beyond human resources, our natural resources were taken. You know, and also part of why the West is significantly developed is due to unpaid labor, because they had more than 400 years of unpaid labor to get ahead.
Yeah.
If the Holocaust victims got reparations, I think slavery victims deserve reparations too.
And I understand what it means to go against the grain, yeah. Everyone's going this way. I'm going to go this way. So I make news going this way. I understand. But you see, what leapt at me from your advocacy, Yinka, is when you said Kemi's attempts at revisionist rhetoric cannot rewrite history, and it is this and the sacrifice of many women who fought and died for her to have the right to be where she is and say what she's saying. Strategy is good, but empathy is fantastic.
Exactly.
There are people, maybe Kemi should go to Badagry and visit the point of no return. I think Kamala went there. She go to that place and try and walk that path and imagine the shackles people, men, women, children were in, and how they looked back at their ancestral homes and were led into ships, how many of them jumped into the sea, and how many of them were padlocked in the mouth so they don't taste the sugar canes in the sugarcane plantations that they were sent to, and many more gory stories that we've heard. And you see how insensitive and unempathetic, and how she had, because of what she said, again, may we not have to sell our souls in the pursuit of what is ephemeral.
Yeah.
I always like to come at the issues sometimes a little bit contrary. I think Kemi is just a walking mimicry of, you called it white supremacist. I think she's just like an irony, a personification of irony. She carries a black face. So slavery is all over her, whether she likes it or not. She can't be white. She can call herself British, but she always alludes to her Nigerian past, which is from the slave part. When the British came here, Nigeria is, as you talked about, it's colonialism, and we know that Badagry is our only history of slavery. So Kemi is just, I don't know what is wrong with her, but there might be a psychological problem there. I might be looking at somebody with a low self-esteem. That's what I think. So I particularly don't take her seriously. I know she might end up being the prime minister, and I will still not take her seriously, because already she's laid the foundation for people to not really take her as a credible person. I mean, people like Mandela were in jail for 27 years. Those are really impactful history. Not to talk of somebody who says that, oh, I was robbed or my father or something. I mean, so I find her a little bit trivial. And like Bright says, she panders a lot to decide that she thinks she's going to get the vote from. But I just wish her luck, but I'm not impressed.
Even if we deny history and the truths embedded in its narrative, it has a way of coming back to haunt us.
I'll take from this that we ought to learn and build on the right foundations, especially at the grassroots level, or we will be vulnerable to collapse. Now, unpacking the local government autonomy. The landmark Supreme Court decision in July 2024 granted financial autonomy to the local government authorities, but that decision has yet to be implemented. The court's decision was twofold. First, it held that the federal government of Nigeria must pay the federal allocations of the LGAs into their designated accounts, and that the LGAs should have control of their allocations. This decision was made based on the court's interpretation of Section 162, subsections 5 to 8 of the Constitution, which prescribed a joint state and local government account. The second decision of the court was on the legal requirement for democratically elected LGA officers, and the courts thereby abolished the governor's practice of having caretaker committees by stating that only democratically elected local governments would merit the receipt of the federal allocations. The court's decision in July of this year, but up till date, it has not been enforced because of complicated constitutional issues that have trailed it. Now, I'm going to be looking at a few of them. Did the court engage in judicial legislating contrary to the principles of separation of powers? Did the court provide even an enforceable result? Why is it that some governors and some groups, particularly the governors of Anambra and Oyo states and the Afenifere Pan-Yoruba group, take exceptions to the judgment? Why did the federal government of Nigeria itself have to set up a committee to recommend implementation strategies for a decision that should just have been implemented? Why did the National Assembly also opine that they may have to legislate to bring the Apex Court's decision into efficacy? Do the local governments even understand what their functions are as prescribed in the 4th schedule of the Constitution? Or are they thinking that they are going to be independent or mini governors? Without the abolition or abrogation of the Section 7 and 162 of the Constitution, we have that point that the Constitution still recognizes state and local government accounts, joint state and local government accounts. Can the Supreme Court decision then be enforced against a governor like Soludo, who insists on the joint state local government account? How is the Constitution to be amended? Because all such amendments of a constitution can only be done with the acquiescence of at least 24 states, representing 2/3 of the states of Nigeria. It is very, very important to note that the Ninth Assembly, National Assembly in 2022 attempted to secure this same amendment to the constitution, but they failed to secure the majority required of the states. Former President Buhari also tried to obtain similar results through an executive order, which the governors blocked. Now, it is time for us to just have a little bit of discussion on this. I know that you've had a lot of unpacking that has been done as regards the local government, but again, these issues have not yet been solved.
You know what? For me, you see this present crop of politicians in Nigeria have made a caricature of the judiciary. How can the Supreme Court of Nigeria took a decision and the governors are contesting it, and they're seemingly getting away with it? Just as you queried in your monologue, why would the federal government itself set up a committee to do something implementation? Why? There's a judgment. Why would the governors, because we keep saying these are the emperors in Nigeria, why would the governors insist on local governments and states' joint accounts? What is it about the local governments that they would not let go?
That was going to be my question,
yes.
But maybe Yabo should...
Yeah, we need to actually understand a lot of things, that our whole judicial process and our whole existence as a nation is based on what we call the Grundnorm, which is the Constitution. Now, if the Supreme Court had abrogated, the Supreme Court should have made a deliberate and, a factual decision on that section
of the Constitution.
Section 162, that says that there should be a state and joint and a LGA joint account. The Supreme Court now went in a sort of what should I call it? I'm trying to give. The Supreme Court said we're giving efficacy to this aspect, and they now almost gave a permission that we could still have a state local government account. if the governors want it. But it is because, hold on a second, but it is because the governors have not been doing well in the past on this issue that we are now saying, give the local government their
Autonomy.
money. You understand? But they didn't repeal. They didn't call for the repeal of that.
The respected authority in the nation today to interpret the Constitution, especially when there are issues of interpretation or issues that are not clear, is the Supreme Court. So if the Supreme Court, in their wisdom and in their judgment, whether they are right or wrong, looked at that section of the Constitution and says that that section does not exclude or the ability of local government from receiving their allocations directly, shouldn't that, by implication, be said that in a way it is a pseudo, I don't want to use the word repeal of that section, but basically invalidates that section of the Constitution, given that they are the only body that can make that determination?
Yeah. They should have invalidated it, is what I'm saying. The way they left the decision is still open. They should have invalidated it.
First time we had this conversation, I brought up something around how quick this judgment was delivered.
Yes.
Right? I think the hearing was the first month. The second month, it was the sitting. The third month was the judgment. Do you think, I mean, this is something that has been trying to happen for over 20 years and it never happened, and in 3 months it happened. Do you think that the governors have decided not to respect the judgment because of the process? Maybe was this a regular process?
No. Actually, I think this is the right time that this can go through the state houses of assembly, and quickly too. I think the governors are quite ready. It's just, we just have outliers. I think majority of the governors are ready to actually let them have their money. Send the executive bill out now. The National Assembly, that same week, should have started working on it to bring the Constitution in line with what the Supreme Court, and they have a good thing, like what you said, it's the Supreme Court that has made the pronouncement. So immediately they should have amended the Constitution.
So why have they not amended the Constitution?
It's exactly what I'm saying. Everybody is worried about that 36 states houses of assembly that they need. And all they need, you see, if you remember the last National Assembly, they got a lot of amendments through. This amendment of the local government is one of the ones that failed, but a lot others went through. I mean, they changed the exclusive legislature because there's still so many problems with the local government administration. First, the local government administration is placed by the Constitution under the states. All the laws that are going to be guiding the actions of local government are to be made by the houses of assembly. Not even the governors.
Not the governor. Not about the governors. So our attention should be on the states, houses of assembly.
Precisely. And apart from that, there's so many aspects in the Constitution on what local governments are supposed to be doing that Lagos State has done something good now. They are already sitting to amend their local government laws to sort of incorporate what the Supreme Court has said, and to what I would say we need to do is that the federal government should not interfere with the states. The states should decide that they're going to have the separate accounts in line with what the Supreme Court has said.
So the issue now is, are the governors ready to answer off and just let the local government do their thing? That is where the challenge, like a lot of governors, they had a pushback on the judgment. They had a lot of people saying, we don't want this to happen. Have they made peace with it? Despite the Supreme Court judgment, they still, a lot of those people that have the state assembly in their pocket. So again, except you get the governors buy-in, it's still going to be very difficult to implement. Fine, we have a judgment, but again, implementation is still
have to be a process.
Far ahead.
It's a constitutional amendment that we're looking for now, and the action from states, houses of assembly, so that we can move forward and local governments can have autonomy. That's what we need now.
So many issues to consider. We unpack them to bring clarity and possibly point the way forward.
I'm with you, Yabo. We can't build effectively without clearly defining the blueprint. Let me ask you this. What kind of society are we building when the people we elevate, the ones we call our leaders, role models, trend setters, don't reflect the values we truly need? In Nigeria, this question is critical. It's often said, we get the leader we deserve. Why do we celebrate individuals who fail to align with the vision of a thriving, equitable society? Take politics. A qualified visionary leader or candidate might struggle, not because they're not qualified or they don't have the competence, but because they don't fit into the local societal narrative or demand. Meanwhile, individuals with questionable, corrupt characters often rise to shape policies that affect all of us. Now, consider cultural influencers, the trendsetters, the celebrities. Many hold immense power to shape what we value and how we live. Yet, extravagance and shortcuts to success are often glorified, while hard work and integrity are overlooked. Working in media has shown me how deeply perception shapes society. It's not just about who we celebrate, it's about what they represent. That's why I dedicated much of my work to challenging these narratives by creating platforms that shift the focus to stories of real value. One of my most recent efforts is the Builders Show, a series dedicated to celebrating skilled artisans and creators, people whose hard work and innovation reflects the true essence of progress. The show's mission is to create a new class of influencers, hardworking, skilled Africans who will inspire the next generation to find passion and pride in working with their hands. It's about redefining success, not as fame, but as the ability to create, build, and contribute meaningfully. But this isn't just about a show. It's about redefining influence. Power resides where people believe it resides. Each of us play a role in who we elevate. It begins with the post we share and the voices we amplify. Before you engage, ask, does this person reflect the society I hope for? Let's celebrate those who build, innovate, inspire, and create the society all of us as Nigerians and Africans deserve.
Thank you, Bright, for this advocacy. I tell people that we need to bring back shame. We need an overhaul on the kind of media we consume, the kind of media we produce, and the kind of media we consume, as this shapes our value system and what we consider appropriate. Our leaders are a reflection of our society, and they reflect the values the society celebrates. When I say thank you, I'm saying thank you for putting together the Builders Show and showcasing the importance of hard work. Yeah. There is a lot of stigma associated with artisanal skills, and people believe that there is a limit to what it is you can do with it. Thank you for letting people know that it's okay. We all can be white collar workers, and these are the people who power the economy. The artisans, they're the ones who make things happen. They are the bedrock of the economy, and they deserve to be celebrated. Thank you for celebrating that.
One of my pet peeves is hiring artisans in Nigeria, especially painters.
I'll show you, Shege.
They come to paint your apartment and they leave trails of paint along the way. They smudged this place. Everyone is tacky. So you find that a lot of Nigerians go to Togo to go and import painters and import carpenters who do finished work. So really, you deserve commendation to say, I am focusing on these people right here in Nigeria. I am celebrating them. To use your words, you say you want them to find passion and pride in working with their hands. We've come to that point in Nigeria where everybody wants to be a dancer or a singer or a presenter. Everyone's presenting a show on Instagram. They all want to be presenters. So, but what are we doing with the values we need? You know, with our artisans, redefining influence. That's what you called this monologue. And I thank you for that, because leadership is about influence, nothing less, nothing more. And if we, the custodians, we the elites, are not at the vanguard of making artisans feel that they're important and significant to the growth and the upholding of our values, then we have failed.
A lot of our graduates go to universities and they take disciplines. I call them disciplines, not the professional courses. You know, they do BA history, BA whatever, and all sorts. And then they come out after 3-4 years in university, and then they go to start realizing that they need skills to earn. You know, so 4 years has gone down in something that is not going to give them money or earning. And they come back to the realization that this is what will actually give me money. So I think what you're doing, in fact, I would like if you showcase people who started very early, who opted to go and start trades and skills learning, and who have done very well. Because you see, this function of influencing is so important that the person doing the influencing is also somebody who has something to sell, that have done very well. We have a lot of lady mechanics, and it's because one particular NGO actually took it up to start training mechanics, and some of them have done some of them have done so well. So when you find these influencers who are in blue collar jobs, but they're doing so well, we'll be able to influence people to let them know that it's okay to do this. It's okay if you've got the skills. That's the whole essence of technical education. And people believe that technical education is for those who don't have much brains. Meanwhile, that isn't even wrong. It's not even the policy behind it. The policy behind it is that you break up at GSS 3. Then those who feel better about skills and technical training will go for technical training, and those others will go for WIC. But at the end of it, after the 6 years, some people get the MBTE certified certificate, which still takes them to university if they want. So it's not as if your life is ended. But people just don't get this, that you still have the same pathway.
There's dignity in labor.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what everybody's trying to say, that it doesn't matter what you do, whether it's blue collar or white collar. If you are doing a job, you're getting paid for it, or you're doing well, you should be respected, you should be accorded that respect, and you should be celebrated.
Yeah.
That's the point, really. And today, ask the average person on social media, or the average young person, to say, who are your role models? And you'll be shocked what they will say. Because you find out that right now the role models are not people who are those that you want to, that elevate hard work. There are people who are about the glam, they're about the blow, they're about the show.
Yeah.
They're not really about the hard work, the doing, the getting your hands dirty and things like that. And I think that this advocacy really must start from, all our traditional institutions, from the home. We must begin to tell our kids what's the key, what's the important thing, because they grow up ultimately to be, these influencers. We must begin to also share the same thing on the pulpits of our churches, because sometimes that's the problem when you see that the impression you get when you sometimes in our churches and on the pulpits are that for you to be successful, you need to be able to be in a particular frame and earn certain kind of money and drive some kind of cars.
My experience growing up is what made me understand what the core of the problem is in our society, why there's a lot of youth unemployment, why there's a lot of people not engaged in these things. And the entire economy, there's a huge opportunity. We're a service-based country. We're not a production-based country. There are 250 million people who wear clothes, who make their hair, who live in houses, who drive cars. We're a service-based country. But our education system is literally training us for a production or an administrative system that we don't have the companies to employ people to do those things. Right? It's literally common sense. And I'm like, if we really want to solve unemployment, it's not just building the schools, who's going to go there? You have to, first of all, get the young people to see the reason why they should go there, why they should be part of this. You have to show them the outcome,
the pathways to success.
You know, all the plumbers and tilers, are they making money? Are they driving cars? No. Why would I want my child to go and do that? Right? So it's not just the process, it's the outcome. If you don't beautify the outcome, especially in this time of social media, if you don't elevate the outcome, nobody wants to do this thing. So as much as the Ministry of Education is like, oh, we have to make sure that we have all the, bring in more technical schools, we have to put it in our system. If you don't market it properly and convince young people to see a reason why they should do those things, they would not. And that's why the leadership exists, to kind of like change that perception. Here at the table, we don't just criticize. We also celebrate the good. Since rain or shine, fall or rise, we are in the business of nation building together. Join us again, same time next week, and be part of this conversation that matters. Till then, just goodbye from all of us.
Goodbye.
Bye. Goodbye. Thank you.